Brandon is up next, and I know Simon's hanging in there. Really appreciate that, Simon. I also want Denise to be able to present soon because, among other things, we want Alecky to hear from Denise. So if it works for everyone, we'll go Brandon, Denise, Simon, and just wave madly if you need to go sooner than what I'm talking about. Sarah will be up soon after that. Let's also hear from Vincent whenever. Thank you, Sarah. All right, so let's do that. Let's go Brandon, followed by Denise, followed by Simon. That'll be our default. All right, thanks everyone. Go for it, Brandon.
Hey guys, I really appreciate what you're doing. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine, Brandon. Thank you.
Awesome. I'm not going to play my video just due to bandwidth, but again, thank you guys for what you're doing. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to present this concept I've been working on with several people for some time. And what we've got going is the AIM Together campaign, which stands for All Individuals Matter. And the whole purpose of this is to identify how we meet our basic human needs together and break down our historical indifferences and learn together how to overcome these things through a human optimization cognitive study. And I'd like to use artificial intelligence and digital signatures created that relate to our individual health and wellness and reward the community-based organization with performance-based results. So I want it to be very intrinsic driven. And this is going to be called the Pilot for Peace program, which is in honor of Captain Jason Lawrence, who took his life several years ago and was a mentor. And I'd like to be able to create a living memorial that allows us to study how we help ourselves and identify who we can help next that's willing to help themselves. And I'd like to use veterans and bikers and community-based organizations to be able to work together and manage these resources in a transparent way that helps us accelerate our growth exponentially. And yeah, that's a lot, but that's where I'm at. So we have a property that we're looking at that's 240 acres. We'd like to put in a full-fledged medical facility to include holistic healing, as well as this research and development center, which will be tasked with managing our resources to be able to meet our basic human needs and whether or not what we're doing is actually taking care of ourselves. And retooling military veterans, obviously military vets, to retraining the community how to put in sustainable platforms and infrastructure to meet their community's needs and provide the veteran with a meaningful mission to help end suicide and more violence. And that's, we've got a website, www.pilotforpeace.world, and that's with the number 4. And I'd really like to link up with some of you people and work together as a coalition to implement a real pilot program real time in the San Luis Valley in Colorado. And that would look like 150 housing units and the described medical facility and research facility. Any questions?
That's awesome, Brandon. I'm going to put in the chat something very symbiotic with what you're talking about. Operation Welcome Home, which I organized with some veterans, and it's about welcoming home all incoming veterans, not just present day, but going back years, decades. In the images in the link I sent, you'll see some Vietnam veterans being recognized and welcomed home. And so this is very close to my heart. So thank you, brother, for all you're doing, passing the talking feather.
Thank you guys very much for what you do, and I'll check out your link, and thank you so very much. Talk later.
Thank you, Brandon. Yeah. Shannon, stick around, Brandon, please. You got another.
Thank you so
question?
much, Jamin. I do want to ask Brandon, if you would be so kind, can you put the link to your website in the chat? Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. It's so important. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll put that in the chat there. Looks like it just got private messaged here, but let me get it to everyone. 1 second, please. Okay, great, awesome. All right, any other last questions, comments for Brandon? Beautiful stuff, wow.
I'm wondering if he's on Trove.
Oh yeah, Brandon, are you on Trove? In fact, everyone is welcome and encouraged, strongly encouraged to join Trove. This is how we can connect more systematically, in addition to the synchronous connections here, how to connect asynchronously and support each other. Welcome back, Annie. Welcome, Gabriel. Again, welcome back, Vincent. Chime in when you're ready. And we slipped a little behind schedule, but we're doing very well right now. Thanks to everyone. So up next, we've got Denise, followed by Simon, and welcome back, Carol Roshana. Carol's very generous, being flexible, hanging in there. She's got a bit of a longer presentation, so please stick around for Carol. And Denise, go for it, Denise, and followed by Simon.
I was wondering if I could share a screen, please.
Oh, yeah. Let me facilitate that.
That was the private message that
Oh, gotcha. Okay, good. Thank you. Go for it, Denise.
I'd like to share a little piece that I've been creating in regards to Awaken Dream Earth, which comes from a synergy call that I created during the pandemic called Awaken Dream Synergy. So here's some snippets of that. And I hope you can hear the sound. I am in Mexico, so the Wi-Fi might not be the best. So I
think your bandwidth is good. Did you check the 2 checkboxes prior to sharing the video?
I just checked the one checkbox.
Let's see, there were 2. There's 2, one for video, one for audio. You can go ahead and stop share if you want, and then click screen share again, and then look for 2 checkboxes in the lower left when you
optimize for video clip. Okay, yeah. I did do the share sound.
Okay.
Let me see, because I am in the jungle across the street from the beach. This is what I've had to do in order to. It's a great location, but it's low budget. Let's see if it's going to work. I apologize. Maybe it's not going to work. Yeah, it's not working right here. It's my Wi-Fi. So let me see if I can find it in my YouTube. I super apologize for the. I just put up this video right now. Here we go. Maybe it's going to be better here.
The approach.
Yeah, much better.
We're going to have a deep breath.
There's no winner in this unless everyone wins.
Breathing deep into our heart.
Incubating the seeds of a new culture.
Us awakening to our dreams, the manifestations of creations for a healthy earth, a thriving.
It's much easier to just unconditionally love everybody.
We're in an awakening process.
Evolving, and that really the act is for us to be nature, to act as nature, and that's
breathing
super
deep into our heart and acknowledging the gift that we are.
So thank you for listening. This I actually just finished last night, maybe specifically for this. We have not unveiled our YouTube yet or our Trove. So look, there's one view, that was us. I just put this up. But we've been this call called Awaken Dream Synergy, and I've created the call into Awaken Dream Earth. So this is the new design for, we've been doing these calls once a week, and I'm going to start doing them once a month, where we come together to talk about conscious innovations and creations that we as designers and developers of new businesses, entrepreneurs, and technology creators are designing and developing. So I have not got confirmation about these two people, but these are two people that are potentially going to speak in the future in regards to their system. So this guy has a decentralized autonomous organization, and then he's got an operating system for gamification of consciousness through gene keys and multiple other forms of creation. He's a great interface designer that's been around for a lot of years. So basically the call has been about people and their creations. So we created this Awaken Dream Lab, and we're looking at how we ourselves can be a decentralized autonomous organization, but we're actually a bunch of individuals with our private projects and looking at other people's projects and seeing what's happening in the community. So we've been based on like intelligence, education, values, experiences, community, and tech and platforms. So I've been working as a user interface designer in the past for innovators in a space that was interesting, but wasn't exactly mine. But see, this is really interesting after speaking to Aliki or hearing Aliki, because this is actually what helped me create Awaken Dream Earth, which came from Awaken Dream Synergy. So we've got the fire. I was saying this is like the alchemy of transformation, finance, business, exchange. We've got the air, we've got the meetings, the social media, the convergences, the events. So I've been working on the air part quite a bit. We've got the spirit, the energy, the ether, you, me, our hearts, how we build trust, our intentions, our activations. We've got the water, the flow of feeling, emotions, philosophy, the design and marketing, our strategies, and how we flow on the different pieces and like etch away at the earth, the form, the actual pieces, that foundation, the architecture. And with these flows, like you can see that this is in a Merkaba. Maybe you can't because it's, I actually don't have the Illustrator file anymore, but this is done in Illustrator. I probably have it in my hard drives. But that's a backstory. So in between is us, you know, so we have all these elements that we're working in, and then we have the center of the foundation of the creation that we're working with. So I've been working in the back end with like, what is this architecture that we are? So I've got a Miro board here, and I want to show you a little bit more. Let's see if I can find it. Well, here I've been working with the different designs. I'm not sure if I can find what I'm looking for. Let me see if I have it in my other piece here. So in the back end, as an information designer, I look at how we communicate together. And I'm looking for a particular piece. This one. Nope, that's not it. I haven't looked at my material for a little while. You'll have to excuse me. I've had some family emergencies, and because I'm doing all of this in the back end without any current financing, my life tends to be up in the air and I move around. So basically what we're doing is we're working in, let's see if I have it in the website. Oh, here, I have it down here. But I have it as in the flower of life kind of mode, is where we're working on conscious intelligence, conscious experiences, time, space, structures, systems. So here we have the 4 elements plus ether, and then I'm talking about space and time as well, whereas structures is earth, systems are, I guess, water, experiences are fire, and intelligence is air. So I've been looking at how we've got these, and then how that works in the Merkaba. And I do have it drawn out somewhere. I just can't find it right now. I really apologize. I want to show you that piece that I did on that. We've been working on about how we sit around the fire, fire chat. This is the original flyer. And here we have the logo I've been working on. We're working on like what is at the center of our focus, and how do we focus on that? So how do we become conscious beings? And gosh, I just really want to find this one piece because it really goes well with what Aliki is doing. Oh my gosh, so weird. I super apologize. I just want to show this one thing. Well, anyway, so I'm working on different, like, be the change that we are here to be. Changed. The change the world needs now is there in everyone. Jackson Brown, we have a rock and roll person in our group who has all these different quotes. Tune in, turn on, rise up, let's awaken to our dreams. We're on a conscious collective journey. So how do we awaken to the dream of Earth? Here again is the Merkaba and the 6 elements. And so in these elements, we have, conscious structures, conscious systems, conscious intelligence, conscious experiences, conscious, I can't remember it all. The spirit, the earth, the fire, the wind, the water, and then also how all of that comes together. So when you look at the flower of life, we're in the center here, and then we have the pieces, and they all coordinate to create this entire system. So we've been looking at how we're whole systems designers, but we're also often people who work in, for instance, conscious linguistics, tech platforms, Trove being one of the tech platforms which we're on, and I really look forward to unveiling that and sharing that with our group. And Civil X, we've been doing presentations of different groups and what they have to offer. Sense play being a device that is for coherence. Rephrase is about the intelligence of your mind and your systems, your bubble around you. Serious Reboot is a space where you actually go in person to a land and change yourself into a more conscious person so you can be a conscious entrepreneur in your creations and know how to interconnect with everyone. Vortex Domes are experiences for immersive media. Togetherland is about community coming together. The Connected Experiences, again, virtual reality. Light Body Love are experiences, and we've got people who marketplaces. So, I gotta admit people. So I'm working on a website, and it's called awakendream.earth. And hopefully today I will have the Connect available. Right now, I've just got, the Patreon I'm working on, sponsorship potentials, donate. I would really love some donations so I can get these braces off or even, adjusted, and some proper food and housing. So I'm really looking at how I can, and also I'm here in the community where I can help people with presentations and things like that. If people want to do exchanges, I do would love some sponsorship or money to help make this happen. So we are doing meetings now once a month at the end of the month. And we're going to be doing it at venues here in Tulum where I am at. It's going to be at Digital Jungle, possibly, but due to some family emergencies, I'm a little bit late and I'm not sure if I'm going to make this time. So otherwise it will for sure be on Zoom. I'm not sure if we'll be talking about the Earth operating system this week due to my own falling behind of creation. And thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please ask me, and please check out awakendream.earth, especially maybe after a few days when I complete the website, because the links aren't completely working and things like that. So thank you for being here. I think I am complete.
Beautiful, Denise. Thank you so much. And as that is just amazing, really great stuff. And if you find what you were looking for image-wise, feel free to show it later, no problem. And you mentioned Michael Gallo, and as Jimena wrote in the chat, Michael Gallo has spent dozens of hours right here in this room. And anyway, I'm in contact with him on a daily basis.
Oh, he's my ex-roommate. He's an old friend. He's been my friend for 10 years. So I actually prompted him, like, we want a presentation of your Myth OS, your Mythic operating system. So the whole time he was in Tulum, he was like working on it. I'm like, but we want to do it in person. So now he's back in Shasta.
Yeah.
And he's not responding to my, hey, are we going to do this or what? So we'll find out, but you guys are invited.
Thank you.
So I would love to start opening the doors to welcome people. So if you guys would look maybe later today or tomorrow at the Connect tab, I will be having a form up. I'm actually doing all the administrative work and the web design and the back end and all the stuff myself. So I'm kind of like swimming in like, oh, what's MailChimp? Oh, Trove, thank goodness for Vincent and Trove, and learning how to do Airtable and websites and stuff like that. So it's a big thing. And the YouTube. So yeah.
I want to say thank you, Denise. Thank you so much for bringing this. I know Brett Warshawski with Togetherland, and so he's really special. And I'm coming down to Mexico, and so I'm really looking forward to being there. And Jimena is going to be my hostess for the most time, and I'm really looking forward to spending time in Mexico. Maybe we can connect.
Yes, please. Where in Mexico are you going?
Well, it's going to be Mexico City for the majority of the time, but I'm going to be doing the Mayan sites. So I believe Tulum is one of them.
Awesome. Yeah, there's some places around here. So please let me know. Let's meet in person.
Excellent. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? I hope I wasn't taking up too much time. Thanks, Shaman.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Oh my goodness, such wonderful presentations. What a wonderful community we've got here. So mi casa, su casa, everyone. Feel free. This Zoom channel is almost 24/7, thanks to a number of dedicated volunteers, including some of the people in this room, and many of the people in this room. So love to keep this going. And in fact, we'll be doing the press conference on a regular basis. That's the plan. So stay tuned for that as well. Alrighty, I really appreciate everyone's patience. Simon is up now. I'm gonna propose the sequence here. If you need to go sooner rather than later, please just like wave at me or speak up, and we can just do this together in terms of scheduling. Vincent, I assume you're cool, but let me know if you need to go sooner rather than later, as well as everyone else. Yeah, Vincent, go for it. Great to see you back.
Yeah, great to be back. Jamin, I'll shoot you a message in the chat, but I'm good to go whenever.
Okay, good. So you're flexible is what I'm hearing, and I really appreciate that. Appreciate everyone's flexibility. Tyler, great to see you. We got Tyler coming up soon. For now, we're going to go with, looks like Simon, followed by Sarah, followed by Erik. Erik actually has 2 spots, so we'll work that out, and then we'll have Carol coming up soon after, and Tyler after that, and Marc Antoine. Hope you're hanging in there well, keeping the energy up. Are you hanging? Okay. Okay, awesome. Really appreciate it. Can't wait to hear from all of you. So Simon, thank you so much for your patience, and take it away, Simon.
Thank you, Jamin. Just want to say congratulations to you, frankly, for pulling this off. It's been inspiring sitting here quietly listening. The only disappointment is the number of people attending, and this needs to be heard by millions, obviously. I have to say I was particularly taken by Pauline's section on the myth of individualism. It's something I experienced in my own life, thinking that's what it was all about, the way we're educated. Although I also really resonated with what Saab said about, we're forced to act individually by the culture, the economic system we've got, perpetual growth on a finite planet and a debt-based monetary system. A quick synopsis of my background, if I may. I've spent a lifetime trying to get rich and failing miserably. That's how I define myself in my first sort of 30 years of employment. But having said that, I guess I could have been the archetypal baby boomer. I had good jobs in my 20s that I walked out on, just a splinter in my brain that somehow it just didn't make sense. I don't want to bore you too much, but I just remember saying to my dad when I was about 23, I'll just go and clean a few windows whilst I'm thinking about it. And then I got married to a lady with 2 children, inherited a step family, so life got very serious very quickly. So started to just build the window cleaning business. Ended up with 7,000 clients and 10 window cleaners. Not a huge business, but you know, I thought I was working to set myself free, but instead of which I was just working to tie myself up in knots, working myself into an early grave. Trying to fast forward this. So I'd met other people in non-competitive businesses, and I said to them, well, let's do some joint marketing. And then I said to them, let's do a newsletter. And then I said, well, let's not make it just dry and boring about the businesses. Let's introduce a bit of community information. And that was my first involvement in anything community. So I went into town and started to talk to community groups and charities just to get a bit of color for the newsletter. And I was shocked. It was a life-changing experience and epiphany, because nobody trusted anybody. Nobody trusted me. Who is this person? What does he want? What's his agenda? And this aspect of individualism, everybody was forced to look out for themselves ultimately at the expense of everybody else, which made life difficult because I was part of that. And I wasn't quite sure what to do next. So again, trying to cut a long story short, I set all the window cleaners free. I gave them all the kit, which I rented to them. I said, I can't do this anymore. And went into a really reflective phase, but then realized that, you know, I needed to make a living. That hadn't changed. And then again, fast forwarding, really thrilled that I ran across Jamin. I can't even remember how that happened. And then introduced by extension to Vincent and Trove. And I kind of think all the places have fallen into place, and to the extent that I've got a startup business, which I think is about reversing this trend of enclosure and privatization and everything for profit. And the cornerstone of the business is that I'll be looking to recruit based upon people who are okay with the concept. And I got this from Silas, who was on the call earlier. Give what you can, receive what you need. So even though it's my business, I started it, if somebody joins who's got 4 kids and a big mortgage, they need more than me, income-wise. I'm quite happy with enough to live on. That's where I'm at. I've got to that time of life. I think it's interesting, a lot of people, as they get older, they realize they need less, not more. So the business concept is really, I've explained it very briefly, it ties in entirely to what Vincent is doing. For those of you who are familiar with Trove, we're taking his organization's component, is coding, and changing that to what will be a local directory of local independent businesses inside the chrysalis. The name of the business is Chrysalis Community. The chrysalis being a metaphor for transformation. The caterpillar is a voracious, again, this chrysalis that came out, conversations with Jamin. The caterpillar is a voracious, mindless consumer, but it knows instinctively at some point that has to stop. And it goes into the chrysalis and transforms into this butterfly that steps lightly upon the planet. Maybe that's where we're at. You know, maybe we had to go through all this bullshit to realize that now is the time to transition into humanity 2.0, if I can put it that way. So the idea is that local shoppers will be encouraged to go to this platform and search the local businesses inside the chrysalis. No corporates, no chains will be allowed to advertise, but also on the platform will be local projects and good causes. So the idea is that people will go to the platform, identify that the project that they think is most worthy, that they want to support. And then when they go to the local businesses and make a purchase, the business owner will make a donation to the project of that shopper's choosing. So the whole idea is to create a virtuous loop of local people supporting local businesses, funding local projects supported or identified by local people. So it's all about recreating local community, reversing this globalization thing, which has done so much damage, getting back to local. The Dunbar principle was mentioned earlier, local, sustainable, resilient communities, but networks supporting each other. But when all the donations are collated, they will be made in a local currency, Chrysalis coin, which by definition can only be spent back with the local businesses. So money as a medium of exchange. Sorry if I'm losing anybody here, but then the money that backs the local currency, the Chrysalis coin, will grow on deposit. The idea being that we can then start spending that money to invest in local infrastructure as commons. So things that are owned by the local community with a stakeholder mentality. We're custodians to look after these things with future generations in mind. So the indigenous tribes, the 7 generations principle. So we would start buying local urban farms, which feeds into Sarah's food healers, renewable energy projects, municipal broadband, all owned by the community beyond the profit motive. So basically, I guess to cut to the end of it, I'm working on something which is designed to hollow out capitalism, to take the tools of business, traditional, conventional businesses. I mean, for the small businesses owners, it will be zero risk. It'll only cost them a penny when somebody actually goes in and makes a purchase, so they've got nothing to lose. It's not like speculative advertising in a magazine or whatever. But at the same time, they will be re-anchored, embedded in their community. Most of the shops now, you know, you just walk in there. I mean, Amazon are working to the stage where you've got shops with nobody in there at all. We need to get back to knowing our local business owners, almost to create local guilds where all the local businesses are supporting each other wherever possible, meeting needs locally. Beyond, as Shannon was saying, beyond this competitive mindset, it's all about cooperation and collaboration for mutual benefit. So for me, it's pragmatic. I'm not involved in one of these big, hugely ambitious projects. You know, it's like how you eat an elephant one step at a time. And I'm really looking forward to coming back and showing you what Vincent's done as the website starts to develop, and sharing this as this fantastic initiative becomes a regular event for all of us. So thank you again, Jamie.
Well, thank you. Right back at you. Thank you, Simon. You're one of the co-creators of the press conference, doing a wonderful job. And I can just see all the resonance here. We got a couple of questions coming up. Sarah, are you okay? Can we take a couple of questions? Because I know you've got some time. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your flexibility there. All right, I don't know who was first, Shannon or Pauline. I think you two were separated at birth because you're each pointing at each other. Anyway, carry on.
Simon, that's such a beautiful idea, and it reminds me a lot of the slow food and the slow money movement. How is it different or similar, and how will you be incorporating any of those previous ideas?
Well, this has been a long time coming, as you might imagine. Most of the alternative monetary ideas are generally bought into creation. So people will buy, I mean, in the UK, Bristol pound and Berkshire pounds, I think in America. The problem with that is it tends to appeal to people that are this way inclined anyway. So it tends to be sort of very middle class, privileged type people. Because this money will be brought into creation through commerce and through investing in local projects, it will involve a much wider segment of the community, hopefully everybody. And then as people start to support the local projects through their buying habits, of course, then the encouragement through Vincent's platform and all these collaborative tools is to actually get people actively involved. But to answer your question, I've learned a great deal from the slow food movement and everything else. I mean, ultimately, the biggest challenge I had of all within the context of earning a business, I've come to realize that, you know, we need degrowth, massive degrowth. But that can happen with major local growth.
We're going to get degrowth whether we want it or not.
Well, it'll be foisted upon us, you're right. It's happening now. But so much of, we just don't need so much of that we produce and consume. We just need to meet our needs, don't we? Which again, which the slow growth comes, it's the slow food movement and so much stuff that's happening. But again, on this call tonight, there's a sense of frustration, people looking for ways to move it forward. At the same time, as we know from, you know, previous presentations, time is against us. So, but all you can do is what you can do, basically, but by working in collaboration with the quality of people on this call.
Well, we're moving forward in any case, aren't we, Simon? And it's really a case of kind of surfing the wave and staying on top of the wave. And we have to remember that although we're collaborating beautifully here on Zoom, that it's our neighbors who are going to give us what we physically need, and our shopkeepers in our local places that are going to fulfill our physical needs. And so I really like to hear what you said, Simon. To hear you speak of your passion is it's so in alignment with what my vision is too. It's like when I talk about communal gardens, you know, it's all well and good to say that you can take produce home with you, but you know, there's only so much food you can eat, and food you can store in your fridge. And so when you've worked for all the food that you need, and you still want to have time and you want to spend time down in the garden, there needs to be some way to acknowledge that you're giving more to the system than you can consume. And how beautiful is that? So how do we honor that? And the Chrysalis dollar that you're talking about is a beautiful way of acknowledging that. Thank you so much for bringing that forward. You know, one last point, because I know I'm going to have to go, but Stan Pokras has created a wiki for Philadelphia. He also created Other Networks, which is a wiki for the world, connecting all the different people in the world. It's what he aims to do. And it seems very much like what you're talking about. And so I really, and he's into money and that as well. So I really want to get you guys talking to each other. He's a very good friend of mine.
For my side, just to finish off, Jamie, and when if anybody thinks what I'm talking about has got mileage, they can pick it up anywhere in the world. I would love to see it. The idea go international. I mean, all I can do in the short term is concentrate on the UK where I'm based. Just a funny story. I was chatting to Vincent about Italy. He speaks fluent Italian, but he still had to go and look at what the Italian for Chrysalis is. But there's the Chrysalis, wherever you go in the world, there's a Chrysalis. Well, there could be.
It's not a word I use very often in Italian conversations, I guess.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love it, Simon. Great job, mate. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to read off what is emerging as the default schedule for the next several speakers. Please speak up if this doesn't work for you, right? If you need to go. Oh, and Vincent, yeah, Vincent needs to go as soon as possible. So let's facilitate that. Erik, you've been very flexible. Sarah needs to go soon. So Sarah, how about this? How about Sarah, followed by Vincent, followed by either Erik or Carol. You've both been very generous with your flexibility. Or maybe Erik's got two, maybe he does two short ones, maybe he does one, and then Carol, and then Erik, and then let me know, Tyler, if you're okay. Also, Marc Antoine, I think it's later for you, so I'd like to get you in sooner than I can. Tyler, I know you're quite flexible and I really appreciate that. And also Danielle, maybe after Tyler. So let's go with Sarah, and then Erik, Carol, Erik, and then Marc Antoine. Should we give that a go? Okay. Thanks so much, everyone. All right. Really appreciate everyone's flexibility. Wonderful presentations. Oh my goodness. I wish we didn't have such things as clocks or time. And of course, there are cultures that don't. And we just hang out until we're all good. So feel free to stick around. We ain't going nowhere. And Sarah, sister, thanks again for your patience. Great to see you. And Annie, great to see you both. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. I'm going to have Jamin share his screen so that since Marco's in the storm, so that he can show you our website, foodhealers.org, and we can also show you a quick 23-second video about what we're doing. Hi, my name is Sarah Siegel, and I live in Los Angeles, California. I am a full-time vegan activist, and I am also a pet sitter. I stepped out of the full-time Monopoly game in 2018. I left my corporate business and my multi-million-dollar living. And I just said, I'm done. I don't want this anymore. This is not what I signed up for. I was programmed like this. I think we're all programmed like that when we grow up, most of us. And I decided that I was going to live in LA. And then when I met Jamin at the Vegan World 2026 conference, I started attending the 24-hour block party for collective intelligence. And then Dr. Rao started talking about Vegan World 2026 and how not everybody's going to be vegan, but we're going to be moving to a system of normalized compassion, a world, not a system, actually. Right now, we live in a world of normalized violence, but we need to go to compassion. So the picture behind me is a picture that Annie V, who is on here also, she is a certified chef. She's amazing. She's part of my support system for Food Healers Los Angeles. Once again, I'll let you know what we do. We make organic, plant-based stew. So it's gourmet, healthy stew. That's how we advertise it. Free, gourmet, healthy stew. And behind me in my picture is a bowl of stew. And we were able to get these vegetables from Beverly Hills Farmers Market as well as Santa Monica's Farmers Market. Those are two very high-end neighborhoods in Los Angeles, if you haven't heard of those. And what's so amazing about Food Healers Los Angeles is that we're not only able to give the stew away for free, we're able to nourish and help people so that they can also start working in their community to help people as well. So this is a community-based effort. And our last, we've had 3 events, and our last event was September 11th. And we were really greeted with a lot of amazing feedback. And the community itself in that area was very thankful. And we're going to show you, our website is foodhealers.org. And we're part of Climate Healers. And you can just accept the cookies down there on the green, please. And this is a picture of actually what I sent to Dr. Rao to put. This is a real picture that we took from the farmer's market. This is what we're getting. We're not making stew out of a can, and serving it at a food bank. We're going to these really nice areas where the ocean is, and we're able to serve organic, healthy stew. And so our last event was September 11th. We were able to serve almost 200 bowls of stew. Incredible. People were so thankful. What I think Simon, this comes kind of on what Simon said, is what's our motive? It's like, well, we're trying to just fulfill a basic human right. Okay, so it's a basic human right. And this is actually pictures. Okay, so these are pictures of our Thanks Living Stew recipe, which we give out to people. We want to share this. We're not trying to keep it to ourselves. We want to share this, right? Love all, feed all. That's our tagline. And why you should choose a plant-based system. Dr. Rao was just published again, of course. He's been published many times, but there's a very recent beautiful article. And look at these photos. I mean, doesn't that just make you feel so happy? Doesn't it make you feel so hungry? And that you can get this all for free. You do not have to pay anything. We don't ask you for anything. Somebody said, are you taking donations? And I kind of was just like, no, we're not. Because I think that Jamin said that he didn't want to take donations. But if they want to, that's fine in the future. But we're not putting a donation can out at all. That's not our motive. So these are, once again, photos on our website. And then I'm going to follow up and show you a 23-second video. And then that's it. We'll take questions. This is such an easy concept. Anyone can do it. Rebecca's doing it in Texas. These are pictures of us with our donors. This is Balic. They've been so amazing to us. And this is Sebastian. And I literally go into Beverly Hills and I walk across the street on Sunday mornings and I go visit them and I say hey to them and talk to them. And we have relationships. And that's what it's all about, is connecting with your community and thanking them. And this is how we got all this. I mean, this is just our latest and greatest of getting all of this. And like I said, most of every bit of this is organic and it's coming from family farms. And that's what we like to support. We're trying to not support the killing machine and the burning machine. We're trying to support the nourishing machine, right? Let's make America healthy again, right, everybody? So please stay tuned. Our next event will be Saturday, October 16th. We will be doing it the same place we did this past month, because it's just been so amazing with the feedback and everybody's grateful and we can reach so many people at that one location. And I'm going to let Jamin show you the video and then we'll wrap up. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sarah. Here comes the video.
And they're free. Love all, feed all. The food healers are here to feed everyone. That's right. Check out the plant-based treaty as well. Endorse it. Together, united, unity. All brothers and sisters deserve to have food, and we're out here giving free food today. Love all, feed all. Free plant-based stew bowls, organic from the farmers market, made with love. Come get it.
Caesar, doing such a great job getting the word out there. And Sarah, you're such a great connector. You brought in Annie, who's here with us today, a dedicated volunteer, always cooking away, huge volumes of super delicious, nutritious food. Volunteers like Caesar and his mother. It's really a family affair. And thank you, Sarah. I'm so grateful, so inspired.
Thank you, Jamin. And I appreciate you supporting us and you being our benefactor to let us keep going forward with these events. There are just a few things that we do have to buy, but we're mostly zero waste. And if anybody on this wants to join in their community and know how to do this, it's really easy. It's such a simple little recipe. And it's just basically asking, right? So asking is free. And I learned that in sales a long time ago. And that's how I got the guts up to ask for the food from Beverly Hills. So that's how we did it, because you got to ask for the food or else you can't get it. So any questions, anybody? Okay. Well, I appreciate you and thank you, Jamin, and thank you, Simon. Yeah.
Simon, did you have a question?
Question, and just, you know, I'm inspired by what you're doing, Sarah, and I certainly intend to add food healers as a project locally. And one of the things I really love the idea of is you know, making it almost like a worldwide concept. We can come together on Jamin's Zoom platform and talk about it internationally, about what we're doing locally.
Yeah, our next, what we want to do is get a celebrity, which should be very easy in LA. Everybody has all celebrities have their own platform, so they have to talk to their people before they want to. It's just like, we're just giving away free food. I mean, but see, that's the thing, is it's something so simple, people still cannot conceptualize because they're so indicated, you know, they want complicated. Like somebody on here this morning talked about, people kind of like disasters. They like that drama, right? I guess that's why people waste their time watching TV and stuff that it's not even going to happen, or I can't even deal with people that read fiction. Sorry, everybody. But things are just made up. That's not going to happen. We need to focus on what's going on now. People are starving. And what we noticed is that it was just everybody was coming up to us. So once you draw the crowd, and you have to kind of draw them in, we felt like with Caesar having amp and the mic, that really drew people in. Now, would I want to do that? No, I would be too scared. But people come to Annie and I when they see us, so that's good. But yeah, having that amp and that mic and calling people over, letting them know free stew bowls. I just love that. But people would ask me the question, and one of my friends would kind of go into this whole long thing. I'm like, no, we don't need to start telling them a dissertation. We just need to say, food is a basic human right. That's it. And then they just walk away. Like, I mean, you know, and that's planting a seed. So we just really need to keep it real simple. It's just like we're trying to simplify our lives with this is a stew recipe that anyone could make, right? I mean, BJ knows. You just have to have somewhere to cook it. And you can make it and then you serve it cold the next day if you want. It can be kind of like a stew gazpacho. So many people like that. And the whole idea is it just helps make people feel good that they're getting something for free. You don't have to pay for it. But we just have to get the concept out there, because if this was Subway or some kind of fast food restaurant, and they said they were giving away free sub sandwiches, there'd be a line of 200,000 people down the block to get a free, freaking disgusting, gross, murdered, hacked up animal on a bun. But this is free organic stew that is cooked in Beverly Hills. This is what we've got to start making normal. You see, so people they go to the food bank and they show it on the news. Oh, we got all this food from the food bank. That's great. That turkey was 4 years ago. Like, they are throwing frozen turkeys through these people's windows and calling it food. And I think that we need to start redefining what food really is. And this really is food, because it will nourish you. I think if you're eating something that's going to kill you or cause you to have like disease or cancer, you really shouldn't be calling that food. That's more like garbage, right? Thank you. That's my long answer. And BJ, thank you for stepping up also and doing the food healers.
Thank you, Sarah. You're an inspiration. Thank you.
You are both inspirations, and Annie V and everyone who's been participating and sharing and contributing. It really is contagious. It really is possible. Food as a basic human right. The farmers love to give away their surplus. It would go to compost otherwise, right? What better use than to turn it into nutritious, delicious, plant-based, immune-boosting stew that also creates community, shares the love, lets people know they're not alone, right? It works. It just works. It's kind of, you know, at first you're like, what? Should it be free? Is this communism? To quote Pauline, you know, what is this, communism? Denise has a quick question, and then we'll keep rolling. Go ahead, Denise.
Hi, I just wonder what you guys are thinking about marketing, because basically human value is people are marketed to and sold like a Subway sandwich, and they think it's food. It tastes a certain way. You know, it has sugar in it. It attacks their parasites. The parasites say, give me some more sugar, you know, in their mayonnaise and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering where the value in marketing is for you and what you see, because I see that the future of any good creation is how we present it and actually sell it, which is basically a human value, letting people know what the human value is. You're on mute, Sarah.
I think I'm going to let Jamin take that question, because his idea was really grand, which I liked at the beginning, where we have a Tesla truck, like an electric truck, and we're driving down the street and we're just like giving away free stew bowls, you know, because it's been done before. You know, Will Smith's son does it here. He gives away. So I like the fact that Cesar called it a stew bowl, because that makes you think you're at a food fair. And we're going to do a photo now, and we're going to do probably this photo and show it on a big, like a kind of like a 11 by 14. So that it's almost like when you're going up and you're, you know, walking up to a pop-up and you're buying food, like a taco stand, and they have like different things that you can get. It's like that. There's the stew. So I think that was the one thing that we were missing, and we got feedback from there. And I thought that was good feedback to show the bowl of stew. But I think Jamin should answer the broader question. Thank you.
Sure. Happy to. So I don't know if you can see on my screen the image of Community Cafe. which we launched back in 2015, basically creating a brand and, dare I say, institution around it, a place where everyone can go and get free, nutritious, delicious food. And so I'm big into marketing and branding just from my own background. Cheaper by the dozen, cheaper by the 1,000, cheaper by the 10,000. We've got this shared dream of a Los Angeles where we've got these Tesla trucks, beautiful Tesla trucks, pulling these space age looking trailers, with just immune boosting, full spectrum nutrition, plant-based, cruelty-free food as just a basic human right. It's just like, what? Well, I mean, there was a time when sewage was not a basic human right. There was a time when water was not a basic human right. But once these things became basic human rights, try convincing Londoners to going back to, living without modern sewage. Good luck with that, right? So once you try it, you'll never go back. I'm speaking to you, humanity, you, community, right? And this is one of those pivotal projects, perhaps the single most important starting project, to precisely get us to make that shift towards the collective, to remembering that we're all one. I love the way Pauline put it, that we're these fragile sacks of water who need each other, right? This brings us together and shows us, indeed, we do need each other, right? And let's get out of the all-day Monopoly game and into the game of sharing. And it's so efficient, and it can literally be essentially free. People love to volunteer to do this. And it just opens their hearts and minds and stomachs, and it's just the most beautiful thing. So please,
I just want to touch on that though.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we just mentioned when we were at the Beverly Hills Farmers Market, Annie and her sister came to meet me to pick up the food, even though we kind of had to beg for food this last time because it was scarce with the crops right now with the potatoes and stuff. So this one girl named Emma, she was working at one of the stands we were at, and she ended up coming and volunteering. And then I sent her some photos of it, and she said she wants to come the next time. And it was just amazing. So we've already got volunteers from us meeting people at these farmers market. And she was vegetarian. And we're like, yeah, come on. I mean, she's not vegan yet, but she'll get that way, she'll figure it out. But she had a great time. And I just wanted to throw that in there. I think Jasper had something to say. And then I think somebody needs to go right now because we're only supposed to have 5 minutes.
Yeah. First thing I want to say is thank you for doing this. It's so beautiful. It brings tears to my eyes. And I had a question and 2 questions actually. And one of them was, is teaching people to make the stew part of the thing that you're doing? Or can you build that in? Because what we all know, one of the big problems, especially among the poor folk in America, is they live in food deserts, and I see it right here. I live in a poor neighborhood in a rich town in Germany, in the outskirts of rich town, sort of East German communist era apartment blocks, lots and lots of immigrants, lots of working class people, and a lot of them are really overweight. And I look at what they buy when I'm in the store buying stuff across the street, and they're buying all this junk food for the kids and stuff, and for the whole family, just full of stuff that you'd buy if you were 15 years old and had no clue, right? And these are mothers and adults and stuff. And I'm thinking, teaching people how to make real food would be incredibly valuable. That's the first thing. And is there any way of building that into your program? And the second thing is, I was thinking, okay, how could this basic idea be applied in Africa, in rural India, places like that, when it's not Beverly Hills, you don't have rich organic market farmers who have 10% surplus they can give away. It's a completely different situation. And I was thinking, the phrase that came to mind, 2 words came to mind right away: community gardens, right? If you could get people to pool land and help each other grow the food and protect it as well, and know how to make the best possible super nutritious stew, and share it amongst the community, and with people, invited and expected to help, put in some time in the community garden to enjoy it, to make it fun, to make it a center of real community building. I think that might work. And if, I don't know, I don't know what you can do with that thought, but I just wanted to put it out there.
Well,
Thank
we
you
actually have a show, a cooking show called Jane. I'm actually wearing the shirt right now, Jane Unchained News. And we have a cooking show every day at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I've never been a recipe that's been duplicated. And this show's been going on for 3 years. And Annie and I went on last Friday, or whatever September 11th was, the Friday before, September 10th. And Annie and I, and then we did the previous 2 weeks before that, we go on and we actually show how to make the stew. And we show that for 5 servings of stew, it costs $2.50. I would think it would be less expensive in Africa. I've only been to some parts of Africa. So, and I did eat stew while I was there, by the way.
Know how people love.
You
Sarah,
think you're saying teaching it in the local communities? Yeah.
In person, I think the TV is great that you're doing it. And in addition to that, it's not a but or an or,
Oh, yeah.
it's a yes and, right? In addition to doing that, which is really amazing that you've done that already, is getting together people to sort of in cooking classes where it doesn't people come, bring your best friends, if you're a lady in 40s and stuff like that, bring your 3 best girlfriends, come on down, and we'll get a couple other people to do the same, and we'll teach you all how to do this too. It's really easy. And by doing it in person and having good company and like making new friends or reinforcing existing friendships like that, I think that would make it live and real in a way that's more powerful than TV. And it would be a question of sort of grassroots organizing, like getting volunteers to be the volunteer teacher cooks and getting them basically to organize and just giving them moral support and a website to share and so on. It could be totally grassroots based. It doesn't need to have top-down organization, just have the clear idea and put that out there and get people to, I don't know, approach a restaurant and say, hey, can we, on your slow night or slow afternoon or something, or before you open at whenever you open in the afternoon, can we have your kitchen for a couple hours? And we'll bring a bunch of people in here to use your equipment to teach them how to make this stew. Just use basic equipment, but we'll have a place to gather and to do it. You in any given city, you probably find somebody willing to be the restaurant owner to be generous enough to do that. And it's good PR for them anyway. And so bring people in, have a volunteer teach them to make the stew. Everybody make the stew right on the spot, and then they go away knowing with their hands and their bodies and their eyes and their mouths how to make the stew, not just look at on TV. And they got
I
friends.
think that's a great idea. And I think that we're progressing to that eventually, because when we just did this last Friday is I went to Annie's and she ended up making these amazing gluten-free chocolate donuts for the show. And we ended up, I stayed at her house 3 hours after that and we were prepping. So she actually showed me how to cut up all the vegetables and how she does it. And there's a certain way that she does it. She has certain knives. I mean, she's a chef. And so I think that's a great idea because so many people don't even have those tools to make those fancy cuts and all that stuff. So we need to show everybody how easy it is to make and how simple it is. And the ingredients and the way, if you see our recipe, I think that Jamin can share the recipe possibly. But we do have the recipe and we actually give people the recipe. We tell people to take photos of it, and that's great to offer to help them make it. I think we'll look into that. I think that we'll have to, we will definitely find a plant-based kitchen to do that. We were open to that before the COVID because Dr. Rao was making it, I think, at the Buddhist temple. Remember, Jamin? I think Rebecca knew that too. But so we were originally, that was our plan, was to go and big, a bunch of us cook all the stew in a big, like we were going to do it where we meet at Toastmasters in a Lutheran church. But we also want to make sure that the stuff is not cross-contaminated because we do serve gourmet, healthy stew. And that means we want to make sure that there's no animal blood on the food that we serve. But thank you. I really think that's a great way to bring it back down to the community level and keep it there.
Yeah, cool. Thank you again, Sarah.
Beautiful. What great conversation. See how this is bringing us all together? Sarah, you, BJ, Annie, all of us. Silas, show your face, Silas. You are like our spiritual leader or something. You've really inspired us all, and everyone here. I mean, just really appreciate everyone's contributions. All righty, well, we got some folks in Europe for whom it's getting later and later, and I want to give them a chance to get some rest. So how about if we go, Erik, if you want to do your shorter one, and then Vincent, and then back to Erik, and then other folks have been very generous. Carol, you've been super generous. Don't want to abuse your generosity, but you've just been super cool, and you've got a longer presentation, which I really encourage everyone to stick around for. So even if you're getting tired, hang in there. It'll be worth the wait. All right.
Can I have screen sharing?
Oh yeah, absolutely, Erik, absolutely. Okay, so Erik, Vincent, and then I think we'll maybe squeeze in Marc Antoine before it gets too late for him, because he's got to cook for the house. Okay, go for it, Erik. You should be good to go.
All right, this is a somewhat different scale from the community stuff that we've been talking about, but nevertheless, I think important. So just, why is it not here? Sorry, let me shut a couple of things down. See if it appears. I've got it open and ready, but it just didn't appear on the list. There we go. There it is. Oh, hang on. Share sound.
Tonight, I'm here to talk to you about none of the above. You know how it is around election time and you decide not to vote because the two candidates are so repulsive. Repulsive's not the word. We're all full of shit. I never wear a suit and a tie. Never. I mean, these are just things that politicians use to trick you into thinking that they're respectable. Well, to the politician, huh?
Are you able to hear me if I talk while the screen share is still on? Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you just fine, Erik.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right, cool. So yeah, that's Brewster's Millions. That film was made over 35 years ago, but I mean, this sense of not trusting any of the politicians that are being put before us, I think, is even more acute today than it was back then. So I think this is a really important point. I mean, we need to understand that our government's ruled by consent. Then when we go to vote, when we go and cast our votes, we give our consent to be bound by the outcome of that election, right? And so the ability to withhold consent at an election, to say, no, none of these options are acceptable to me, the ability to do that is fundamental to the proper functioning of any kind of democratic system. And so that's the fundamental point on which none of the above is based. When none of the options that you see on your ballot paper are acceptable to you, you need to be able to say so. And if enough people find all of the options unacceptable, then new options must be presented. I mean, imagine that in the last two US elections, right? If you could have said, sorry, not Hillary and not Donald. And at the last, no, sorry, not Donald and not Joe. What the fuck? Are you kidding me? Seriously? These are the best two options we can come up with? So having none of the above on the ballot paper is an absolutely essential key, like I said, to a smooth functioning democracy. So basically the way it works is it's a long-standing campaign, and it's never really gained any traction because, of course, it undermines the duopoly of the existing system. If the electorate can actually force change, if it can actually force another option to be put on the table, then it undermines the power of the existing duopoly. So there's a great deal of institutional resistance to this kind of thing coming about. And so every Sunday, Simon and I and a few other people get together and try and discuss ways in which this campaign might get some traction. So that's what this is about, really. It's an advert for it, just to very briefly make the case as to why it's important.
the way it works will be that none of the above appears as an option on the ballot paper, right? And so instead of voting for any of the available options, you could vote for none of the above. If 50% or more of the people vote none of the above, then new candidates, new policies must be fielded, right? This is none of the above with teeth. It's not just a token thing. I mean, if you think about it right now, at any given election, this applies to the UK and the US, about 1/3 of the people eligible to vote do not vote at all. And of the remaining 2/3 that do vote, how many of those people are voting tactically? How many of those are voting for a lesser of two evils? How many of don't really want to vote for anyone, but they feel it's their duty to do so, right? And so they vote for someone without very much enthusiasm. You know, you add all of those people together, I would estimate you're talking about 70, 80% of the population are potential none of the above voters, right? And if we really, really want change, like if we really want things like, you know, Simon was talking before about we need massive degrowth. Yeah, we absolutely do need massive degrowth because the resource drain and the waste input we're putting on the planet is unsustainable. However, we cannot do degrowth under the current economic system, right? Our current system of debt-based money means we constantly need to be expanding the money supply. And in order not to debase the value of the money supply too horribly, we need to be constantly growing the goods and services that money supply expresses, right? And so we're trapped in these demands of the monetary system, but there are no options on the political ballot paper that are speaking about these kinds of problems, right? And offering genuine economic structural alternatives. And so for us as the electorate to bring that change about, we need to be able to say no, right? No, there is no mechanism by which we can say no. If you spoil ballot paper or write none of the above or simply do not vote, you are counted as someone who just doesn't give a shit or didn't vote or spoiled their ballot paper or are just a rebel or whatever, right? There is no meaningful way, there is no meaningful mechanism by which you can register your dissatisfaction with all of the options on the table. And this is what none of the above is about. And just one final point I would like to make is that if you have something like this, you bring about the possibility for real democracy. You bring about an environment in which independent candidates can meaningfully stand in a particular area, right? Because they understand the demands of their area. You make third parties or what would currently be a wasted vote type candidate. You know, you all of a sudden create the ground by which these opportunities can by which these new options can emerge into the electoral space. So, I mean, I would imagine there's a good number of us here have very, very little belief that politics can bring anything good about in this world anymore. And I would go along with that because the whole system has been so profoundly corrupted. I'm just going to finish with one last graphic to make one final point as to how serious this is. So one way of, that come up? That doesn't look like it came up.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can, okay. So one way of conceptualizing civilization is in these three domains, right? You have the government, you have the market, and you have the people. And each of these things interacts with each other, and each has a job of constraining another, right? If you leave the market alone with no constraints, it will start selling children into slavery and prostitution, right? Because there's profit in doing that. And so you need something which can constrain the worst excesses of the market. And this is the job of government, right? And it is the job of the people to select their government to make appropriate constraints on the market, among other things. Now, what's happened right now, and this is what is so very dangerous, is that the market and the government have merged. The market has captured the government, and we no longer have any meaningful way of constraining this monster. It is us against this giant, horrible monster which wants to destroy everything and take over the world and control every aspect of our lives. And none of the above actually gives us a weapon by which we can combat that. So I think it's unbelievably important, and it's something that is very, very, very little talked about. So that's all I'm going to say on it, and we'll answer any questions if anyone has any. Put another graphic. I'll put it in the chat. Fuck graphics. I'll put it in the chat.
Erik, thank you. I have a question, and that is there a website? Is there something besides what we can do is share your video today?
I've just put it in the chat. There's a very, very good website. There's a white paper that they've written which explains the whole concept really, really clearly. I mean, I've only had a few minutes today, and I've tried to keep it as short as I possibly could because we're under time pressure. But yeah, that explains it really well. It's an excellent starting point, and there's links to other resources there as well if you want to go deeper.
Yes, if you will say it online so people that watch this YouTube later can see it.
Nota-uk.org, NOTA-UK.org.
Thank you.
Beautiful, Erik. Love your passion, brother. Just awesome. Wow. And also, Erik hosts the Glass Beads Game here in this room every Thursday, obviously when we're not doing a Thursday press conference. And thanks for your flexibility, Erik. The
Glass Bead Game is what I'm going to do in the next very, very quick presentation I'm doing. And also, sorry, one thing I forgot to mention, every Sunday in here, Sunday at 10 a.m. Pacific time in this room is the None of the Above discussion. If anyone's interested in dropping in and either learning more about it or discussing ways in which it can actually be, publicized. Because no one with any sense and no one who values social cohesion and politics in its highest sense could disagree that this is an important thing to have on the ballot paper. Whatever your political persuasions are, whatever you would vote normally is irrelevant, right? The ability to say no is crucial. Everyone should agree with that if they care about democratic ideals at all. And so the partisan differences can easily be overcome in this domain, right? There's something here that we can all agree on, and that's also a really important aspect of it, right? It can be a unifying principle that can bring a lot of disparate people together.
I just say, I don't know anybody can help me out here, but I stumbled across something just earlier today that the percentage of the vote that Trudeau actually got in Canada, even though he's been returned, it was really a significant minority. So in other words, a significant majority didn't want him, but he's still back in charge. I think it was something like 20%. I can't believe it was that low, but I'm sure that's what I read.
That's what you get with a first past the post system.
Yeah,
as opposed to when he got elected initially, sorry, Canadian, I'll speak up. He did promise a proportional representation, and then it turned out it wouldn't be the proportional or system that he wanted, and that would enshrine his party's powers, so he withdrew.
Beautiful. All righty. Well, stay tuned for Erik's next presentation in a little bit here. We've got Vincent up next, speaking on Trove, followed by Marc Antoine, who needs to get cooking soon, followed by either Erik's second presentation or Carol, depending on which of you wants to go next. I'll let the two of you work it out, Carol Roshana and Erik, because Carol, you've been super patient. Judy will come back later, and followed by Tyler as the last two. Oh, Danielle is also hanging in there. Thank you for your patience. Take it away, Vincent, and just let me know if that doesn't work for you, send me a chat and we'll work it out. Vincent, thanks again for your patience and for all you're doing here in support of the press conference. Go for it.
Can you just pass screen sharing to, let me see. Perfect, thank you. And I hope my internet is okay. If it's not, please interrupt me because it's a little bit spotty where I am here. I'm gonna go right ahead and get started.
So far, so good.
So Trove started with the idea when it was initially called Catalyst with what if we could capture the potential of people coming together and recognize that together we have power. And this started initially on college campus. I was working with a group called the University Innovation Fellows and trying to figure out how to connect different entrepreneurs, professors, and people together on campus in order to coordinate around creating impact, working on projects, and getting the different ideas that came out of research actually out there into the world where they were creating change. And what I realized is that the tools we have right now for organizing and displaying data kind of suck. We started off using spreadsheets, and when I found out the power of spreadsheets, I was like, why doesn't everyone use spreadsheets? And I realized, we need to actually make the power of technology accessible for most people. And so the kind of future iterations of, these various projects started out with things like Airtable and, trying to get closer and closer towards a more intuitive and visually friendly way to reduce the amount of information overload and have more time to do what actually matters to us, and simultaneously be helping others find what they're looking for by being able to share information in a more efficient and effective way. And so kind of fast forwarding to the different problems that Trove is trying to solve by combining aspects of a social network with a knowledge repository. And when I say knowledge repository, what I really mean is having different databases of different types of knowledge. So for example, a repository of members, of events, projects, calls, and being able to share this information not only within, but across groups. And I will share kind of some of the sketches that I've been trying to use to visualize how this information works. So at the level of the individual, you have your kind of room, which has the different aspects of your information and data and how you collect it. So this is like, your bookshelf of your saved resources, your workshop where you can create a project, your different shoes that you wear when you're in different groups, the mailbox, which is your notification. But then people are in multiple different groups, and you might want to share some of this information with one group or another group and have it seamlessly be connected to people when they need it. Because we are social creatures, and when we collect information, a lot of the time it's so that we can share it. So it shouldn't be stuck somewhere in our bookmarks bar. We should be constantly trying to, at the same time, be connecting information with other people. And this is kind of where the idea of having different networks where all the information from different people and different groups can come together where it can be found. So if there are 100 different groups that are hosting events about climate change, all those events should be visible by the different groups, even if those groups don't know each other, because together we're going to be able to actually coordinate and act in a way that is more coordinated and effective. And so working down from the goals, like for example, zero waste, there are many different groups that are interested in that goal. And these different groups and networks all have different types of information that they collect. And so basically, if any group interested in zero waste posts a event or a project and makes it public, it then can be visible by all the other groups inside of the network. And then what this allows you to do is have an aggregation of all the projects, all the opportunities in a way that somebody who's new and who's trying to get involved has a very clear path to action. And so I'll switch over to the press conference page and talk a little bit about some of the ways to get involved and how we're trying to use the page for the press conference to actually do that. And I'm going to refresh my page so it's okay. So on the press conference page, when you scroll down, there are different ways to get involved. So first off are the different projects that are linked to this event. So if you're interested in learning more about the projects that have presented today, you can go and view any of these projects, go to those projects page, and each project also can have information that's linked to that project. For example, in the next week or so, people adding open houses for their projects, you can go to a project page and immediately figure out, oh, okay, there's something going on in 2 days that I can go and check out and learn more. So we're trying to provide pathways and actionable ways to get involved with things that we find and not just bookmark it for later. And if anyone wants to add a really cool resource or a link you're also welcome to go down to the shared link section and add a title and a URL for a link. And I've added some of the key links here, which are the Discord group. If you want to get involved with future press conferences, you could join the Discord. We also have a button here for the open house creation. If you click that, it'll take you to the event page where you can create an open house event for your project. And then it'll also ask you to put your email and sign up. And that way you'll have a login with Trove to be able to edit your event later, create groups, create projects, link everything up, and then also start to connect with other people. And then for those of you who are not yet on Trove, there's just an invite link to join right at the bottom here. So if you visit that and put your email, you'll get sent an email to create an account. And there's also the ability to link different resources to each event. On the bottom is the event agenda, which has all the different presentations. And once we have the video from the event, then we're going to start turning this into a library of all of the different presentations that happened today. And I'll jump into the kind of group page to talk a little bit more about the different types of directories. And so from Simon wanting to curate local businesses and physical projects, to Denise collecting conscious projects and having different calls and events, to Jamin and James and Marco curating different conversations. I thought, how can our information interoperate, and how can we put these amazing projects, events, people together in a way that it can catalyze collaboration and action? And so that's what the group dashboard on Trove is trying to do. Basically, we have these different rooms inside of your group's building at the top. So the opportunity room, resource room, project room, and then within each one of these rooms, so this is the call repository. So this room has all the different past calls that are public that are basically connected to this group. You could then change the way that the information is viewed, for example, like a long card. And then you can also filter the information based off of topics, date, and it will show you the information that you specifically are looking for. To give you an example of some of the other repositories, so for each group, you can have a project directory and, for example, have a card view, or you can view projects on a map. And the cool thing about this is that one project can be in 5 or 10 different groups. So if you update your project once, it'll update in 10 or 15 different groups that that project is connected to. And then if you go to a specific project page, that will have all the information for people on how to actually get involved, the help that's needed, the opportunities that this project is looking for, as well as the members that you can get in contact with, as well as upcoming events. So if you have an open house or a conference that your project is connected to, people who are interested in your project could go and be like, oh, cool, this project is presenting at the press conference or the Collaborative Tech Alliance meeting, and be able to find ways to be in the same room or the same digital space as members of those projects. And then the last thing I'll show is the wall of opportunity, which is basically an example of one of the kind of explore pages, which basically is taking the different opportunities from different individuals and groups and then putting them together in a place where if somebody who graduates school or who just has extra time to get involved, they can go and actually filter through a list of the various opportunities to see basically how they can get involved. So for example, this is right now, because I'm logged in, a manual filter where you can filter by the skills that these different opportunities are looking for, or the type, for example, hiring, internship, educational experience, looking for a co-founder. And then we're also working on, in the future, doing some automatic matchmaking. So for example, if you uncheck the manual filter, then this will show all the different opportunities that match my groups, the audiences that I'm in, and the skills that I have, such as designing and entrepreneurship. And so we're trying to make it really easy to filter down, like imagine thousands of opportunities, being able to filter it down to the 10 that are perfect for you, so you can reduce and minimize the amount of time you have to spend scrolling through social media, but still be able to be engaged and involved and feel like you're part of something bigger without having to actually spend your time constantly feeling like you're missing out if you're not scrolling through a news feed. So I think that is all I'll present on now. I'd love to take any questions if there's anything specific, and also either now or sometime at the end, just feedback on kind of the process for anyone who did RSVP and create an event for this event today. And we're constantly working for and with the various different groups and communities that we're building this platform with. And so trying to figure out how we can build it in a way that is, meeting the needs of people and trying to really bring together these various networks to create action that's the goal. So, any feedback, as harsh as it is definitely welcome. And thanks everyone.
Beautiful, Vincent. I really, really love everything you're doing that we're doing together, thankfully, and also really love the artwork. And I want to let everyone here know that we have our weekly press conference and Trove planning meeting where we work together on planning out all this stuff every Friday from 11 to 1 Pacific time, which is right after our 2-hour SRM meeting from 9 to 11. Again, think 9/11 Pacific time every Friday. We got a lot of programming going on Friday. Jasper's got a quick question. We're going to keep it rolling. Go ahead, Jasper, and then we'll keep it rolling. Go for it.
I don't actually have a question. I just wanted to express my awe. I think it's just a really, really interesting experiment. And if it can be filled with life in the way that you imagine, this could be really powerful. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to engage with it. And thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Jasper. I'm going to post a link to my profile, and also I'll post the invite link again here in the chat for anyone who wants to get involved. And maybe I can also, on the event page, I saw Marc Antoine said the Discord link expired, so I'll put an updated link there. And I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other quick questions or comments for Vincent before we keep it rolling? All right. I'm going to let Marc go. He's going to go super quick. And then so is Erik on glass beads. And then Carol, you'll be able to take the time that you need because you've got super great stuff to share, Carol. And thank you so much for your patience with the Europeans. And then we'll go on from there. All right, so go for it, Marc Antoine, and appreciate everyone's concision and support. Thank you.
Merci. So lots of projects, lots of people are trying to do wonderful things. And I don't know how you feel about everybody's trying to do things, sometimes connected, but often on their own. And it's hard to be aware of what everybody else is doing. So Vincent is doing a lot there, and kudos, absolutely. It's a great project, and I believe in it. But I think there's another level, which is where we find, okay, I'm doing this, you're doing that. Can we mesh these projects? Can we make these projects work together, find the synergies, and define the project? And then you get into scaling problems. You get into, oh, but I didn't quite see it this way, or oh, I thought this would help that. And getting people to align across cultures, expectations, life experiences is hard work. And it doesn't scale well, basically. So people have their hypotheses, their viewpoints that they come with, and scaling is difficult work to scale. And a lot of when people, and this is at another level, I mean, yes, you need to have a platform like Vincent's to find one another. But after that, how do you get common alignment, to get common projects together or high-level decisions? Because yes, I believe profoundly in the emergent local initiatives, but some things require larger scale, I think. And that requires, again, a level of agreement that seems more and more elusive with polarization. So my interest is how can we get people to align ideas? And I've worked in collective intelligence processes based on either visualizing knowledge networks. And there's a lot of tools for kind of collective brainstorming, collective mind mapping, collective argument mapping. And again, they seem to get to a certain scale, but there's usually one person curating because it's a skill to curate. And if you let everybody curate, you get a ball of wires. Or you can do it on a document, and document is like text and text is like speech. It's one voice. It's very hard to get a kind of polyphony, choral explanation in one document. And if you have many documents, then you have more documents than people want to read. So I'm looking at how to express the connections between different viewpoints. So can we have these mental network representations, because I think they're useful to express complex idea concisely, but not one of them, but many of them, and say, okay, here is where we match, here is where we don't match, and can we work on that? So it's about doing the meshing, like sewing together those quilts of concept maps to create more, to see how your project embeds in a broader worldview. So this is what I've been working on, the conceptual basis of hyperknowledge for a few years, actually. This is slow work. There's so many assumptions in so many existing tools. It's like, oh yeah, this exists, but it's about when we talk about things, when we realize things, we use a name and, oh, you understand something else by this name, or this name has evolved, the concept has evolved. And so the name doesn't fit the way that the concept is used now. And it's about being able to trace that and know that and know, okay, I need to adjust to this because this person's thinking is not where they were. The concept boundaries are disputed all the time. And you need to be able to express that, to be able to say, well, this is understood this way in this community and that way in that community. And so it's all about being able and anchoring it in, we all exist in many communities. We all create these documents, these artifacts. So it's being able to anchor in those documents or in those conversations, in those networks. As I said, my first tool was based on a web forum way back when, but now we're on Discord, Trove. Can we say, okay, this intervention speaks about this idea and here how it's embedded in a view of many things that exist. So that's what I'm trying to do. There's visualization aspect, there's data aspects, there's a lot. I'm working with a lot of people on trying to define some of the fine points of that, notably people who do idea mapping, Society Library, there's the Canonical Debate Lab. There's a lot of groups working on these ideas. And I do invite you to think about how to express things in a way that it's easier to make those links across universes of discourse, of ways of describing things. And I'm trying to make the tools to make that easier. So the project is hyperknowledge.org. There's a video that I made that explains the project, again, more the marketing level. Tech people are welcome to contact me. I'm a parent, I'll give my email, and that's it. Enjoy.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Well, all I can say is welcome home, Marc Antoine. We need you here, and don't go anywhere. just bring your sleeping bag and Sarah will provide the food. Sarah and Annie will provide the food. All right, Jasper's got a quick question. Go for it, Jasper.
Yeah, yeah, I have a thought which maybe adds to this. How to get groups to be better at coordinating their efforts. That's kind of the challenge question that I understood Antoine to be posing, and he's talking about knowledge mapping. And what comes to me is that in addition to that, what's really powerful is to basically invite different groups to contribute to a specific shared goal, especially a measurable goal that you can quantify, and say, let's play a game, a grand challenge quest game of trying to achieve this goal. Like it could be like shutting down a certain number of gigawatts of coal-fired power plants as quickly as possible or something. And then everybody contributes in a grassroots way with whatever they can to solving that challenge, right? It becomes like a cooperative game. And
we're actually working on that. I'm working with Jack Park of Topic Quests. We're working on gamifying the creation of a knowledge network.
It's more than just a knowledge network, it's a goal network.
No, but it is a goal-based knowledge network. And I agree with you. I think that there are moments where a goal can give a common sense of purpose and a sense of alignment that you can align things around. I totally agree with you. But I think
especially a measurable one, a measurable goal, that makes it, that gamifies it, because then everybody can see if the progress is happening, knows what the score in the game is. That's what makes it, like, that's why people love going to football games, right? And so if you gamify the process of working together to, protect Gaia and to protect the children, and you, by expressing that general goal set, basically implement the SDGs, right? So if you take that goal set and you say, okay, let's think about specific grand challenges within that are measurable, gamifiable, and for a particular region, just say, let's do this, people, let's see what we can do.
I
that
agree
aligns
totally.
People.
And we need to have both convergent and divergent. We need to have more the exploration mode where we see, okay, how does solving this goal fit with other goals? What are the side effects? What are the synergies? What are the, and this is more the, we need to think broad and we need to think goal directed. Both are true.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you want systems thinkers always on hand to try to relate these things. So that's got to be part of the institutional basis of the whole thing. And
Absolutely.
That's what you do, right? So thinking in terms of systems dynamics and algorithms, like social algorithms, as well as like task algorithms, that's a very powerful way of looking at the world. Kind of like an systems engineering almost perspective on things, but with a heart.
Absolutely. This is a conversation I'd love to continue. You have my email. And
yes, un plaisir. T'es québécois?
Oui.
Ah bon?
Montréal. Toi aussi?
Non, mais j'ai passé une bonne partie de mon enfance au Québec.
OK.
Oui, à l'instant, j'habite en Allemagne.
Ah, d'accord.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Where's your email?
In the chat.
Ma parent?
Oui.
Ma parent, OK, parfait.
Je ne comprends pas.
From Jasper Sky.
Excellent.
Wonderful. All right, Wendy, you got a quick comment, please, because we've got some folks who've been waiting and waiting super patiently. It's just a balance, but anyway, go for it, Wendy.
Sure. I'll keep it short then. Marc Antoine, thank you so much for presenting. I really appreciated that, and also the conversation with Jasper. I'm have a very similar vision and have been working on it for quite a while myself. I am mostly interested in my piece being the kind of the visual piece, the user experience piece that goes on top of a knowledge network, and with all the gamification, all the things that you guys were talking about too. So I would love to be part of any conversations going forward as well, if you're interested.
Please reach out. I'd love to have more people to talk to about this. It's lonely at times. I mean, I am in touch with a lot of people, but the people who understand the need for very high level constructs. And sorry, I just one last tech spec, since there's a few who will get it. one big problem with so much knowledge network work is that it assumes concepts are fixed, and concepts are evolving all the time, one thing. And so much of the conversation about aligning concepts is meta. It's meta claims about claims. And there's so little of the semantic web, for example, that is aware of the need to go meta, like reification as a dog. Anyway, sorry, that's the techie part, but I'm sure you'll understand, or some of you will understand and relate. And please, Wendy, I'd love for you to reach out. And
yes, I definitely will. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Just wonderful. I love all the conversation, all the connections. I'll be talking about that more later in my segment. I'm going to go at the very, very end. And meanwhile, Erik, thank you for hanging in there. Carol, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you, Judy, Tyler, Danielle. We'll get you all in. Professor Peanut. Let's go, Erik, as brief as you want, and followed by Carol. Go for it, Erik.
Yeah, I'm going to be very brief, because really with the glass bead game, you don't actually get it until you play it. And so I'm just going to, again, just really do a quick advert for it. So the glass bead game is based on a novel by Hermann Hesse. The glass bead game is played in a place called Castalia, which is a protected environment. And in Castalia, people who wish to pursue the loftiest of goals, right? Music, history, philosophy, blah, blah, blah. They get together and they play with the ideas of the culture. The book never really clearly says what the game is, how it works, how it's played, what the goals are, blah, blah, blah. But it's this notion of playing at a meta level with the ideas, with the structure of the culture. And so that idea from the book has been distilled into the glass bead game, which is a game of structured, collaborative, improvisational, exploratory dialogue. So this is actually, this was segued into very nicely with the gamification of networks of communication and information exchange. That is essentially exactly what this is. So the only rule of the game, this is the only rule of the game, is that players take turns. There is a timer. You speak for a fixed amount of time. You don't speak outside of the boundaries of the clock, right? That is the only rule of the game. And by having that structure in place, it means that people who don't often get a chance to talk, the quieter people who tend to sit and listen and don't talk very much, they are sort of forced into talking. And people who have a tendency to talk and dominate conversations are constrained, right? And they have to learn how to be more concise and make their point within the time frame. So it's actually beneficial to everybody on all ends of the spectrum. Having that really does create, it's an enabling constraint. It feels like it's really limiting, but it really isn't. As I say, you have to play it to get it. There are a few things that we aspire to in the game, though. That's the only rule, but it's a practice. It's as well as being a game, it is also a practice. And listening is obviously key. Listening with all of yourself, listening not just to what they are saying, but to what is coming up in yourself as well. It's about being sensitive and present, and completely letting go of your own perspective for a short time and allowing what the other person is saying to really land with you and get inside you. It's an improvisational game, right? And so you're not lecturing people on stuff that you already know, right? It's about allowing what comes in the moment to come. Yeah, it is informed by your knowledge and your expertise and your experience. Of course it is. But the idea of recalling knowledge and relaying it, that's not really what the game is. It's not really what the game is about. It's creative in the moment. And you shouldn't necessarily even be agreeing with what you are saying, right? It's just what happened to come out. When the game is being played at its best, you're surprising yourself as you speak, right? You had no plan, and it's just coming out in the moment. That's when you're really playing the game at its best. The final thing we aspire to is to distance our egos from what it is we're saying. It's part of what I was just talking about, right? The idea to be completely free to explore any idea that emerges during the co-creation of the dialogue. And so, rather than attaching your ego to the ideas, so that if they turn out to be foolish or wrong, that now you feel embarrassed or wounded, right? Like detaching that part of yourself from your dialoguing self is an important part of the game, and it has all kinds of rollover benefits into your real life when you don't attach. There's a good Colin Powell is a war criminal as far as I'm concerned, but nevertheless, a good quote is a good quote. So yeah, I think this captures it really nicely. Avoid having your ego so close to your position that when your position falls, your ego goes with it, right? And so using language that does not say I think and you said, that kind of stuff, but could it be possible that sort of thing, right? And so you're speculating, not attaching yourself to it, not even agreeing with it, just freely speculating. And that's basically all there is to it. You can play it with as many people as you want for as long as you want. The turns can be as numerous or as long or short as you want them to be. You can play by text, you can play by video conference, you can play by voice message exchange, you can play by written letter by post if this is how you wish to play, right? Any kind of modality works for it. As I said at the very start, you need to participate in it to really get it. But it is extraordinary the frequency with which it generates insight, like novel insight comes up all the time in the game just by virtue of collaboration. We play every Thursday, noon Pacific time in this room. We play every Thursday, so do feel free to come along. And that's it, I'm done.
Beautiful.
How long? That was I estimated 4 minutes. How long was that? Did anyone?
I didn't measure, but it was perfect. And I try to be there for. I'm there for at least half of the games. My life's been crazy lately, so. But I highly recommend it. You'll love it. And Erik does such a great job facilitating. I won't say leading because we all together lead it. But thank you, Erik. Every Thursday, Pacific time, right here in this same Zoom room. All righty. Well, I've been waiting all day patiently, and so is Carol. Carol's so excited to hear from you. It'll be Carol next, followed by Judy, who's also been very patient. Thank you, Judy. Followed by Tyler, who's been infinitely patient. Thank you, Tyler. And then Professor Peanut. And at the end, I will go. Carol, great to see you, sister. Thank you so much. Please take it away and take your time.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited. Oh my gosh, it's just been really amazing just to listen to folks. You guys are just absolutely awesome. I'm so excited to be in this room with everybody. So my name is Carol Rashonda Williams. Shaman, you're cute. And I am a professional artist. I've been practicing artist for a very long time. And I actually have been working on organizational systems renewal. And so I've kind of been overlaying art and theory into practice around race, equity, and sustainability. And right at the beginning of COVID, a couple things happened for me. I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And so all of a sudden this huge fear set in that, oh my God, I cannot live in this 60 apartment building complex and survive, and I'm not going to make it, right? And this concept of density that I'd already been studying and working on in the environmental field really hit home for me. And resource extraction around African-American communities in the United States also really hit home for me. And at the same time that happened, I had already for a couple of years been thinking about tiny homes, and I had been thinking about less density and how could we share resources and what would it look like to live in a collective environment, even though I hadn't recognized that I actually had grown up in a shared alternative living collective space. So my family is a military family. And even though most people, when they hear that, they're like, oh my gosh, you're the occupier in an occupied land. I grew up in Germany. And a lot of my, my growing up as a kid, particularly, we were surrounded by folks that everybody knew everybody, doors were not locked. Everybody shared everything. It was very, very diverse. The people who were of color, even hierarchical, were all in one place on the base. Although the Eurocentric white culture was kind of dispersed throughout, a lot of the people of color were all intermixed. And we shared everything. And that's all I could think about is that when I was growing up, it was like a really huge part of my history. So then when my mother and my father split up, my mother came to the United States. She had actually been to Tacoma before. And so she ended up asking the military to send her to Tacoma, which landed us into a very poor neighborhood, all Black neighborhood. That was struggling with resources and struggling with wealth and struggling with social identity and all kinds of things. And from that experience, I just remember thinking, wow, I just want to get out. Like, I just want to get out. And the only way I knew how to get out was to get an education. And so I went and pursued getting a bachelor's degree, and I got my bachelor's in art. And after that, I got my master's in organizational systems renewal. And I really wanted to figure out how could I put these 2 degrees together and really make a social impact in the world. And so I entered the employment world, not recognizing that the color of my skin was going to be a huge detriment to my ability to get ahead in not only nonprofits, but corporate America. And there were a lot of setbacks around that just because I was too smart, and you can't be too smart, right? If you're a person of color in this country, because there are a lot of you can't do that. You're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to look at it that way. It has to be this way, yada, yada, yada. So after about, I don't know, it's probably been about 8 years. I started my own business in 2012. I decided that I was not ever going to work in the corporate sector again, and that in order to get out of that, I needed to actually figure out how I was going to restructure my life. And so I started working part-time for myself and part-time for others. And then finally, in 2016, I launched full-time working for myself. And in the midst of all of that, like, my whole identity started to change. My concept of myself and what I could do and where I could go started to change, right? And so then at the beginning of COVID, like I said, I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease, but up until that point, I've been looking at, oh, I want to live in a treehouse, or, oh, I want to go live in the woods, or, I was like grappling with these concepts of shared living, shared leadership, co-leadership, empathy, and like really understanding how can we support each other as human beings on the planet without taking the planet for granted, and really extracting all of the natural resources out of nature, right? And so I've been grappling with all this for quite some time. And then at the beginning of COVID, I was forced to be in isolation, as all of us were. And it was compacted by this diagnosis of having an autoimmune disease. And then 2 months later, George Floyd and all the riots and the burnings and all this stuff in the African-American community started to be like catapulted to the top of the news. And I just started to feel this huge angst, and I started recognizing and realizing that as an artist of color, not only do I have a voice, but I actually had, because at that point, my art career has completely taken off. And so at that point, I had this, how can I explain it? I had this need to really provide leadership in a way that was modeled after what I was wanting to go towards, right? Because I wasn't seeing it in my own community, and I wasn't seeing it in the leadership in this country. And so I started grappling with all of these ideas in that first year of COVID. And out of that, so that year in November of COVID, the very first year, I had a friend over, and I said, I got this idea, and I don't know if it's a crazy idea, but it's a percolating idea, but I just want to run it by you, and I want to know what you think, right? And the idea was to create a model for sustainable living that was actually a collective model that could be replicated not only in the city of Seattle, but nationally. And at that point, I had been watching 80% of the artists of color that I know leave the city because they could no longer afford to live in Seattle, and struggling with like survival on a financial basis, right? And so I posed this idea around tiny houses and how could we utilize tiny houses to do wealth creation, but not just wealth creation, resource sharing and collective leadership, and non-GMO food, so permaculture, utilizing solar panels, utilizing like docks where we could share for car sharing, all this stuff. And so my friend was like, Carol, that is an absolutely amazing idea, but it's never going to get off the ground. And I was kind of like jilted because I was like, I don't really believe in never. And when you say never, it kind of charges me up more. And so I was just like, well, okay. So then I started asking the same question to multiple people. And then at the same time that this question was being posed to one of my other friends who now was the executive director of Sustainable Seattle, she was launching with that agency a pilot program to actually resource share between businesses. And she wanted my idea, this business, to be the first fiscal sponsor of that project. And so I was like, yeah, let's do it, and she was the first person that really like invested in this project and thought that, oh, this could actually be doable. So once that happened, and I had the first person that was really like, you should try it. Let's tease it out. Let's see if we can get grants. That November, we got our first grant, which was like $14,000. It was a private donation. And then we applied for grants for 2 months. And then in January of this year, we raised, it was $250,000. And all of a sudden, things just started to kind of snowball and started to really take traction. And what I realized is that this model is not a downsized model. It's not the traditional white privilege, like, okay, I got a big house, then I'm going to downsize and move into like a little tiny house and get rid of all the stuff I own. It's not that kind of model. And it's definitely not what people will call in Seattle the Nicholsville model, which is this idea of tiny houses being a shed, or, creating a community of tiny houses for folks who have lost their home, yet these tiny houses don't have bathrooms, they don't have a living room, they don't have like a kitchen, they don't have a way to take a shower, all that stuff. So they're not that model either. The model that I was able to come up with is basically, it's a partnership with an agency or a company called Arch Cabins. And their mission is to build affordable long-term housing that actually lasts the length of a traditional house. And we met off and on, and it's amazing because our missions align so succinctly that they were even willing to like produce our very first tiny house in terms of the size that we actually needed for the foundation that was already in the back of the house that we attained. So after all of this research and all of this stuff, another person came up to me and he was like, we have a piece of land that we would like to give you. It's a ½ acre land. And we want to see what you would be able to do with this land. So halfway through that process of attaining a pro bono architect, all of this stuff, his board was like, well, we don't know. We're not really sure this is the way to go. Maybe we should build condos instead. Right? So he came back to us and said, we can give you a house and you can start a pilot project with the house and build tiny houses on the back lot of the house. And working with the permitting and the zoning department in Seattle, what I realized is that Seattle is one of the most difficult places to do this project because it is one of the greenest states in the country. And so their zoning and planning and all of that stuff are extremely stringent around green guidelines. So then I was like, if we can do this in Seattle, we can do it anywhere in the country. It will be way easier, right? Here's the model. Basically, you start with one of three models. One is where you have a piece of land that is just land, no house, no organization. It's just a piece of land. The other model is where you start with a piece of land, but it has a house on it. And then you put ADUs, which stand for additional dwelling units, on to the back of that house, which would be the tiny houses. And then the third model is basically to work with an organization that already owns land, so like a church or an urban farm or like a park, right? Like a city government that owns a park, or a city government that actually owns land that they're trying to get rid of. So the house model that we're working with is going to be our pilot project. And we've already started to basically transform this home into a community space that is actually located in Southeast Seattle, in the heart of the most diverse part of Seattle. And the idea is that when you put artists in the middle of a community, artists tend to be the visionaries of value, right? Of culture. They bring culture. And so if you plop them in the middle of a community, the idea is that it's like a drop of water that you drop into a lake, and the ripples just have this immense effect, not only on community, but also on the system and the society around that pod, right? This particular house, our plan is for the actual house to be, since it's a pilot project, it's our residency space and our residency center to show exactly what we can do. So the inside of the house will be community space where local businesses, local people who work from home, communities of color that have no place to do retreats or staff meetings, small agencies can come and gather and actually do it at a massively discounted rate. But it's also a space for artists that are looking for connection with community, right? So there could be artists coming from out of town that want to experience Seattle culture, and we'll be able to do that here. So that's part of the model, is this idea of using a tiny house to create a co-community of sorts. And then you replicate that within different neighborhoods within Seattle. So each house might have 2 to 5 tiny houses in the back, depending on how big the land is. And all of those 5 houses would share the main house, and could use the main house as training, workshop, business growth, all kinds of like anything that would help them build their business and live life work balance, right? The other piece of the model is about how we hire and what it means to actually pull people up by their proverbial bootstrings in this country. One of the challenges that I've always faced is since I have about 20 years in the employment education field, which I haven't done that in a while, but what I got out of that sector is that there are so many people with skills, so many visionaries, so many people that want to learn, but do not have a resume, or do not have a degree, or do not, they haven't traveled the hierarchical structure of capitalism, right? And so they get locked out of this system of being able to rise to the top, or support their families, or contribute basically to society. And so for me, that is not okay. So one of the things that I decided was going to be imperative with this project was to experiment with hiring practices and this ideal of a horizontal leadership structure. I did not want to be a CEO. I do not want to be a manager or an executive director. And so I didn't want this project to be something that was like the leader has to do everything, right? And it's all on you. And if you make a mistake, then it's your fault, right? That to me is the industrial nonprofit complex. And I really wanted to figure out, how can I get away from that? And so I started to look at all these different models and these systems around shared leadership and collective identity and all of this stuff. And I just decided that I would find a fiscal sponsor. They could take care of all that other stuff, the back end, the leadership around taxes and all the other stuff that I just want to be part of a leadership team of people that are wanting to learn and grow together and support each other in this effort. And so for me, a horizontal leadership structure is something that I was deeply passionate about. And I had experienced it once only in my entire lifetime. I was the co-executive director for an agency called Community Arts Create. And it was the most powerful thing that ever happened to me in terms of shared leadership. It worked so well because we were so in sync in terms of how we made our decisions. I was stronger in some areas, whereas the weak areas that I had, he was stronger in. And so in terms of being able to lead, I think that when we start to build new structures and new systems, there has to be an opportunity for co-leadership. There has to be an opportunity to be able to say, I don't know everything and I don't want to know everything. I would rather support you in your skill set and you support me in my skill set. And we actually figure out how those skill sets can improve and build a net that actually supports people in a positive way, as opposed to me having all the choices and me leading in all these ways and being overworked, overstressed, not being able to meet deadlines, whatever, right? And then getting bashed, right? Because you set me up for failure because you didn't want to lead and you put me at the top, and now it's my fault that I didn't meet those expectations. So that model for me was just not going to work. So we have actually been, the entire team is hired. The way that folks are hired is we hire everybody based on their passion to learn, grow, and expand either their business or their knowledge of sustainable practices between live, work, life balance. So every single person is hired on as a consultant at a living wage. We are all consultants. We all make the decisions together. There is no one person that actually, determines the outcome of the organization. And that to me has been, in the past 5 months, it's been very powerful and also very challenging, right? Because we're learning together and we're like balancing each other's live work life situations and having to like say, okay, you're overworked. I just got off the phone with one of my consultants right before this, and consultants, and she was like, I remember that you just said in our last staff meeting about work-life balance, and I am stressed out, so I need to take, 3 days off. And I said, it's your schedule. You got to figure out how you're going to work it, right? It's not my job to tell you when to work and how to work and da-da-da-da. That's on you, and I'm here to support you in how you're going to do that. And I'm hoping that if that ever happens to me, you would tell me, Carol, you look a little stressed out. You need to take some time down, right? So in this way, I am hoping that this structure is more like the tiny house model structure, where it's a collective partnership in learning together, as opposed to this hierarchical, you do this, no, you do that, or I will do this and I will do that. Those are the two huge pieces about this entire model that I feel is very experimental. And what I've started hearing from a lot of folks in our community is that the BIPOC Sustainable Tiny Art House Community, that's the name of the project, actually feels the need that these two other tiny house models do not fill. One is a community need in terms of being able to be in a community with like-minded individuals that are actually sharing knowledge, both generationally and financially. And the other is this idea that everyone in our community is of value, and just because you don't have a degree does not mean that you cannot add value to the community. And to me, those are two very powerful statements and assessments around what I feel needs to be future focused models in this country. So I'm really excited working on this project, and it's just been a really amazing ride thus far. And I'm really excited to see what happens. We just ordered our first, oh, here's the other piece, is that in how we're able to do this model is that because of the partnership that we've built with Arch Cabins, we've been able to cut the cost of the production of a tiny house from $100,000 to $300,000, which is the normal, like traditional cost of what it actually costs to build a tiny house that is a home, not a tiny house that's a shed or just one room space. To actually being able to build these houses anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. And so what that means is that we can sell these homes from anywhere from $50,000 to $100,000. And so that meets the need for the middle to low income people who will never ever have access to be able to purchase a home. And because these houses actually do last and they're sustainable, they have the I think it's R15 insulation, the highest grade insulation, and you can build them out how you want to build them out. They have multiple floor plans, multiple sizes of houses, anywhere from 12 by 10 feet to 24 by 30 feet, which the 24 by 30 feet and the other one, I think it's 24 by 15 feet, can be actual 2 stories with a deck off the top of it with 2 bedrooms. So it's they are actually a home that people would want to live in and invest in. The other part about that is that the artists will be able to design and build out their own tiny houses. And because we've partnered with an architect and a designer, interior designer, that have access to real estate and people who are transforming their homes and whatever they're doing with their shelving and all that stuff, our intention is to build these houses out with upcycled and recycled materials. And so that also lowers the cost of being able to build them. That's my model. I hope you guys like it. And that's all I gotta say. Thanks.
That's amazing, Carol. That's impressive. I listened with rapt attention through that entire story. That's really impressive. It's amazing. Congratulations. I love entrepreneurial energy. I love entrepreneurial energy and put in the service of the light like yours. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. If you have questions, let me know. I also included our links, our websites, and all that stuff in the chat. So yeah.
Yeah, you're bringing together community, art, knowledge sharing, responsibility sharing, shared leadership, art as a kind of an epicenter that then has ripple effects. I mean, it's just like, it's a whole hyper object. You're just like a walking hyper object, right?
Wow,
I
I've
remember
never called that
this
before.
I remember this one woman at Microsoft just told me, you know, you're just like a walking HR violation, because I would just like shoot off and whatever, you know. Anyway, but Jimena knows what I'm talking about, unfortunately. But no, really, you're just a walking hyper object. I mean, I'm just like, wow.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it.
And
it's coming to fruition. You know, we just ordered our first 3 tiny houses, and they will be here the beginning of November. One is actually this actual community development model was accepted into the Bellevue Art Museum exhibition from November through April of next year. So I get to talk about it even more with lots of community people, which is really exciting. And we're actually going to have one of the tiny houses built there. But it's really exciting. It's really exciting.
my goodness. Well, Sarah, who's got her hand up next, you two definitely need to, or we three need to talk, because we've been working on the food healers model, as you heard about earlier. And so can you imagine a tiny house community with everything you're talking about, where food is just like delivered? It's just a basic human right, whether people there want to participate in it or not. In terms of the cooking of the food, they probably will. Community garden can be a part of it, as Jasper pointed out. Imagine we just take food off the table, we take housing off the table, we take food off the table, we take energy off the table. What's left? Your life, your freedom, right? Support to be and develop, and not be, you know, trapped in some, you know, 60-hour-a-week job where, again, I really love the way you put it. Anyway, I don't want to dominate the talking. You get my points, but let's follow up and I'll make that happen.
One of the just really quick, one of the things that I did last week is I had a really great conversation with Lopez Island Land Trust, because we're actually trying to figure out how do we structure the actual land besides the houses, right? And that's exactly what she said. They've been around for 31 years, and now, I mean, throughout the entire process, what they've seen happen is that when folks can afford their housing and they're not afraid that the land is going to be sold from underneath them, they actually start to invest in their own businesses. And so what they've seen now happen 30 years later is that everybody in this trust and in this shared, these are all my shared people back here. I live
What's up, shared people?
In a co-living situation right now here. But so when folks are not stressed out about their housing, they tend to actually start to invest in their own businesses. And when they start to invest in their own businesses, they start to actually share resources. And so what they've started to see on this land trust model is that almost everybody has a business and everybody shares their business. So like if something's wrong with her pipes or her water in her house, she calls up Mike and says, Mike, you know, I know you're the pipe fixer. Can you just come over here and check this out? And he's like, yeah, I could barter or sweat equity or whatever for you and do da-da-da-da. And next time something's like going on with my window, if you know how to fix that, can you come do that for me? And it's like, you don't need money to make these things happen. And she's like, it's just a beautiful model. And so, yeah, I'm hoping I can get to that. I'm hoping we can get to that.
Well, that's what Simon's talking about. You know, that's what Eric's talking about. That's what we're all talking about. What a beautiful convergence. That's what Pauline's talking about. Anyway, I'm going to pass the feather because Sarah's had her hand up for a bit, followed by Jasper. Go for it, Sarah, sister.
I just wanted to know if you had any grants available. I know that Dr. Rao, I think he's in Portland, possibly at that Eco Village. So do you have any grants available? Because we're wanting to do that around where I live. Thank you.
So me personally, I do not give grants. I'm trying to get them. And I'm also trying to get land specifically. So if you know anybody that has land, tell them. But I don't give grants, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
All righty.
Maybe one day, right? Maybe one day you'll be in charge of a huge pile of donations and you'll be allocating grants to other organizations trying to help you out. You know what I mean? Maybe, but not today.
Thank you for putting that out there. Yes, that would be really cool. I'd love to do that.
Carol, I wrote this to you in the chat, and I'll send you my email address if you're interested. But among other things, I work, I used to be a journalist, and I'm a social entrepreneur now, but I still occasionally write a piece for dw.com, Deutsche Welle here in Germany, English language, sort of BBC World Service of Germany. And I wonder if I could convince my editor to take a story about your initiative. I give it a shot, because I'd love to help you tell the story, because I think it's good to get out there. And also, I'd love to brainstorm with you, because your ideas are so cool. I want to grok them more. And like, I've thought along similar lines for years and sort of have intentions in that direction. And I'd just love to compare notes about how the structures can work, how the business aspects can be organized, and how the self-organizing piece works. And all, there's just a ton of good stuff there.
Oh, definitely. I would love that for sure. Reach out to me. I would completely love that. Yes.
Right.
I grew up in Germany. I left Germany. We ended up there when I was 9 months old, and I left Germany when I was like 11 and a half. And so my first written language and stuff was German. And to be able to be highlighted in some kind of whatever there would be really awesome.
Kannst du tatsächlich Deutsch sprechen?
Leider.
Nicht mehr so viel?
No.
All right, it's a shame.
I need people to talk to.
The only way to do is to come back to the country, because yeah, I'm going to be spending the winter in Italy if all goes well. I've already booked a trip down to Sicily and spending like 4 months.
Nice.
Working as a digital nomad on the company that I'm helping start up now, on sort of Energiewende stuff, and but I can do that from anywhere pretty much. So I'm going to go to like Sicily and learn to speak Italian. I'm giving myself that challenge.
Way to go. Yeah, that's where it's at.
It's fun. It's fun. You're smart, Yeah, I really enjoyed
Thank you
it.
for the invite.
Yeah, let's talk. I sent you my email.
Awesome. Thank you, Jasper. It's nice to meet you.
Likewise.
Oh my goodness.
Other
I think
questions?
somebody. Oh yeah. Carry
Other
on.
questions?
Well, what a oh yes, Jimena, go for it.
Carol, thank you for that. That was amazing. I think you need to know Dr. Marty Casey. If you don't know her, let me get you in touch with her, because you can do a wonderful job together.
Yes, please do. What does she do specifically?
Well, she has an institute that is called Ungun. It's for ungunning traumas, and she's very in charge of a lot of families. Black Lives Matter movement, and she is one of the deans of all this pacifist movements, being named one of the main representatives of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So she's very aware of how to help people, and she does ungun with art. So you are just the perfect match.
Wow, that's so cool. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh my goodness. What a love fest you've kicked off, Carol.
Hey, can I jump in again with an idea? Are you okay with that, Jamin, if I jump in out of turn?
Go for it, Jasper.
It just occurred to me that what you're kind of doing here, Carol, is creating intentional communities in the middle of the city, right? On a recognized human scale, where people both have their private lives and their private business and their shared public, small tribe business, and that's really cool. And I was thinking, you're doing it around artists, and there's no reason you couldn't do it around other things. Like you could have like 3 sustainability engineers all living together, 3 families, right, on one property with a shared house in addition to tiny houses. And you could just create this amazing node of creativity and shared endeavor, an alliance there. You could create, this idea has many, many possibilities. It's really,
yeah, it's so cool that you said that, Jasper. I have had so many people coming up to me and saying, one person was like, I'd love to do this with healers, you know, like, can we have one for healers? When then I had another person come up to me and say, can I do this? You know, I'm not interested in artists, but I'm actually interested in foster care kids who've been aged out of the system and they can't afford a house of their own, but maybe they could afford a tiny house in a cold village with themselves. And folks with Asperger's, or folks who have been incarcerated, or single moms. So it's actually, the model is very, very replicable and doable on various levels. The challenge that I'm finding, and this is the conversation that I had with a woman from the Lopez Island Land Trust, is that because this model is based in shared everything, hiring, housing, resources, knowledge, all of that, it's going to be, this is what she said. It took them 6 years to get their first piece of land. And part of it is because this model exists in a capitalist society. And because it exists in a capitalist society, people have a very difficult time wrapping their minds around sharing, right? And that this is not based on individual parts, and that it's really a biological system and a biological model that depends on the other part of the system. And until our country, specifically America, and maybe even the world, really comes to the realization that we coexist in a bioatmosphere and that everything is organic and that this is a system, if we do not model that system and model our systems on that system, every other system is going to fail. And that's what's happening currently, is that our systems are failing because they are based on individualistic needs or individualistic, like, hierarchical models, industrial models, right? So I just love that you said that. Thank you very much, because that's the intention. And I try to tell people that, no, I don't know it all, and I'm not saying that I have the solution or the answer, but I hope that this could be a part of the solution and a puzzle piece, because right now it is an experiment and I haven't proved that it could work, but I want to.
You know, Carol, I'm thinking like part of it might be, it doesn't have to be 100% everything communal. It could be like 50-50. The most successful societies are the Western European, like Denmark societies. They're about 50% state government spending and 50% private enterprise. And I bet you it would work. That's probably fractal. It probably will work at the scales we're talking about too, in like 3 families right there. I think that leaving a lot of room for people to do their initiative, personal initiative stuff, and to know that, there's a direct connection between my effort, my reward, and so on, and self-reliance on the one side, and like sharing half their financial affairs and like basically co-owning maybe the land and co-owning also the business space, which is the house, or doing things together to the degree that they want to, or not to the degree that they don't want to, but having having both the membership in the tribe and room for personal initiative. I think that's what will work best, especially the kind of people we're talking about, especially with the kind of capable people you're thinking about here. So if I could suggest that as being a perspective, that'd be worth trialing that model, and I have a strong intuition of being a hugely successful one.
Well, I would love to, if you have resources around those types of models, I would love to like see those and check them out. Yeah, for sure.
I would argue that the whole of Western civilization is that model, at various scales. And the more you can bring it closer to Earth so that there's more co-ownership, co-design, as well as room for private initiative. If you have both of those things, co-decision making, co-design, co-ownership of part of your life, and part of it, you're doing your own thing. I think that's what there's a lot of independent minded folks among us as well. And so that allows for that expression, and it allows you to make a business of parts of your life in common with others and parts of it on your own, which is really, it's more powerful than having to choose one or the other. And I think it works well. It just worked well functionally. And yeah, we have lots to talk about. It's gonna be fun.
Totally. And I really encourage everyone to stick around. We're not finished here until everyone's spoken about everything they want to talk about. Having said that, some of us have time constraints. So Carol, are you cool if we shift gears, let a couple other folks? Okay, and stick around. This party is just starting. As far 6 hours into the press conference, this party is just getting started. You know what I'm talking about? That's what I'm talking about.